This is episode number 124 of the Cozy Corner of Cinema, being recorded on Tuesday, August 13th, 2024 at 5:52 p.m. on a gorgeous night. This is the first episode in a few that the fan is not on, which is just great. I enjoy the summer, but I will not long for it when the fall has arrived. I hope you all have been doing very well. I hope you've been keeping up with your goals, with your dreams, with your future, with your passions. I hope you've been trying to manage all of that one day at a time, one step at a time. I know my current goal I need to get done here is clean up this damn desk, man. I wish you guys could see this. It is truly scatterbrained papers, writings, just random stuff here, man. Some of this I need, some of this I don't, so that'll be accomplished in due time. But of course, I've got the water here, the delicious H2O, and the hot coffee, which has now become mostly hot, a little lukewarm, so we're going to want to drink this before the end of the episode to not have it be too cold. Although some people do like cold coffee, and that's wonderful. That's great. They can live vicariously through their delicious treats. I am not a iced coffee person, but it's all subjective, of course. And including on my desk here, I have a brand new Blu-ray of two films from Kira Muratura, and those are Brief Encounters from 1967 and The Long Farewell from 1971. I've seen The Long Farewell, which is primarily why I picked this up, because I saw this last year, and I thought it was such a great film and a great underseen film. I compared it to the film Mommy by Xavier Dolan, although I liked The Long Farewell much more, but Mommy is a good companion film to that. But Brief Encounters, not to be confused with the David Lean film, of course, that's a masterpiece in its own right. Brief Encounters from 1967. These are two Russian films, and I don't know if Brief Encounters has had a previous release, but I know The Long Farewell had the BFI Blu-ray, and now we have them both here on this Criterion set, two-disc set, and a little light on features, admittedly. Interviews with scholars Elena Gorfinkel and Isabel Jacobs, an archival interview, and an essay from film critic Jessica Kiang. But either way, very cool to still have these, or very cool to have these. And actually, I think I said, I'm pretty sure it actually may have been Studio Canal. Now I think about it, maybe not BFI. It was one of the two, because I see Studio Canal listed on the back here, so that would probably make more sense for them to be the ones who've distributed it. So that's probably correct. I also hope that the audio is okay. I'm keeping an eye on this. Ironically, it went from being too loud with the fan on to now I'm looking at it here, and it's a little quieter than I normally would. So it seems like to be a never-ending game of trying to catch up with the audio and trying to get it right. But I guess we will see when this comes out in the final product. It was wild as all hell last week, man, when I put that episode up, and like part of the episode got cut for some reason, so I had to take that down and re-upload it, and it's up now. But the date on it is August 6th, but I don't think it was up until the 7th or the 8th. But that was all taken care of course. And I'm going to try to get a new episode of Peephole Pictures out this week or next week. If I can't get it done tomorrow, then I'll get it done next week, because I want to keep up a consistent flow with that. I mean, if I fall behind, these are my own sort of set routine for something like this. So it doesn't. There's not a real set schedule, but I don't want to fall too behind on putting out episodes because I enjoy doing them. I enjoy talking about these films and researching them, and they seem to be doing fairly well. So I appreciate everybody who has given them a listen, whether on YouTube or Spotify. And it's good to have importantly, it's good to have water and coffee, because now that my throat's getting a little dry, I can have some water and be back to normal. Be back to good. That is, until it dries up again. So, but it's important with these days, with these warm beautiful days to not fall behind on life's work and life's goals, and to not be swayed by outside forces, but to really, really be upfront with what you intend to do with your life and your future. In this case, man, there's so much to get done, and there's just not enough time to do it all. There's just only X amount of hours in the day, so we do what we can. There's so many films to watch, so much reading to accomplish, and so much writing to accomplish that we just do what we can in the time allotted to us, and hopefully we can keep a steady pace on that. But it's all about just keeping up with your goals, whatever they may be, and just being really consistent and persistent in your views and your dreams, your goals, all of that. And I hope the audio is okay on this, man. If you guys listen to this, I'm going to try to get this good for you because I'm looking back on the audio stream here and it is not. It's getting a little quieter than I would have liked. I don't want to talk too loud where I'm yelling at you guys, but either way, that's that. So, but plenty of films watched this week. Not quite as many as I intended to, which is unfortunate, but that's why I really got to kind of hunker down and really stay focused on the goals, man. Because there's X amount of films that we watched every single week and every single day. And some weeks you meet that goal, some weeks you don't. And, it's just important for myself to not fall behind on films that must be seen because there are so many, so many, so many films that have to be watched that ultimately in our lives we will not get to watch all of them, but we can do what we can at the time that we have, and that means cutting out any kind of nonsense, any kind of just ridiculousness, man. Just milling around and doing nothing with our time. It's just not gonna happen. Not a chance in hell, man. Um, but with the films watched last week, or recently actually, because there's some here that are a little older than last week. A wide selection of films here. Talk briefly about a couple of recent films. This one in particular was one I was surprised to see how little it's been kind of mentioned. This does have some Blu-rays overseas, but nothing in the States, which is very surprising for a film of this quality. I think this is from Rene Clement. Let me get that here. Yeah, Rene Clement, Forbidden Games from 1952. This does have a Criterion DVD, which I don't know if it's still in print or not. I don't think it is. It doesn't look to be in print, but I could be wrong about that. I could check on the website, but it's not coming up here, so perhaps I will take a look at it. Maybe it is in print, actually. It's coming up here. Nope, just kidding. It's out of print, so I guess we'll have to wait for domestic Blu-ray on that, unless you want to just go ahead and import a Blu-ray of that. And it also was included on the Janus Films Essential Art House collection. That I remember that was a big box set back in the day. I never saw it in person, but it was a big book of films, man. And it's actually funny because then Criterion recently just announced that, gosh, man, I'm sorry, my throat is getting dry again. Good lord, I might have to actually pause this, get some more water, which I try not to do. But now they have a newer set of CC40, which I think are just 40 films. And I was looking through them, and I think I've seen almost all of them in here. I think just shy of maybe 4 or 5. I'm curious the ones I haven't seen. I'm scrolling through here because I've seen, yeah, about 5. Probably number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, maybe 8 films in the set I haven't seen. I don't know. I guess I think 8 films. I don't know. I kind of just scrolling through kind of fast, so give or take. But it's that same sort of deal, and it seems to be the same kind of deal of the Essential Art House set. Although quite a strange selection of films in this set. I don't really know what the theme is here. It says this monumental 40-film box set celebrates 40 years of the Criterion Collection by gathering an electrifying mix of classic and contemporary films. I think the most contemporary would probably be In the Mood for Love from 2000. So it's interesting how they define contemporary. Because, yeah, I don't know. Some of these are strange choices. I mean, I've not seen Love and Basketball, but I don't. That seems to be a strange choice to put in this set. Yeah, I don't really know what the what the criteria was for these films. I mean, it's just a truly like a bizarre kind of amalgamation of I don't even know what they're doing with this set, man. I mean, it's a cool looking set. I mean, I'll give them credit for that. I mean, if you just want 40 random films, and go for it. But I think you might be better off just looking up any kind of specific kind of programming than you would be. Like I say, neither a historical survey nor a top 40 compilation. This exciting, personal, unpredictable anthology reflects the cinematic joys and inspiration. Okay, I guess that's what they're going for here. It's just kind of the idea of what the collection means, because you can have films like Eight and a Half, but then have stuff like Repo Man. But yeah, I think a lot of these are very well known films. There's nothing in the set that's obscure by any means, to at least film enthusiasts. Maybe more so than others. I really can't make any kind of general statement for that. Also, I should say that the most contemporary film was La Cienega from 2001, which is one of them I haven't seen. But yeah, it's just a bizarre compilation of films. I think that people who would be interested in this probably already own most of these films, or at least have seen most of them. But if you don't, then go for it. If you're willing to spend $640 for this box set, but I think you might be better off just using that money to get films that might be more tailor made for your kind of interest. I mean, that's not to say that these kind of collections aren't valuable in their own right. Of course they are, because then if you're somebody who is only familiar with a certain period of films and then you wanted to get into the set and see films that have been curated by other people to turn yourself on to maybe some stuff that you wouldn't normally watch, then that's fantastic, and that's great, because then you're gonna from there you're gonna kind of ricochet off that, and it's gonna spark off and be like, okay, well, oh, I didn't know I liked this kind of noir film. Now I'm gonna go look up these kind of films, and so on and so forth. It's just a strange kind of collection. I think because now we're at a point where I would say we're at a really good point of collecting where I don't know. I mean, I look at even the films in the Essential Art House um, box set. I think there's a much more clear kind of curation of this. I mean, because you have films like mentioned before, Brief Encounter and Beauty and the Beast from 1946, and Forbidden Games, I was mentioning before, Haxan, and Ivan the Terrible Part 2, and just, I mean, films that Loves of a Blonde, of course, La Ventura, M, just these really, really great films, Seven Samurai, Rules of the Game, La Strada. I mean, these make more sense together. The other set, I'm not really sure what they're. I guess I understand what they're going for, but I don't really quite see the purpose of it. Unless, I mean, this would be like a curated kind of list rather than a box set. But I mean, I won't purchase, I guess. But I mean, we've got a clip here. Read the introduction to the box set. Yeah, I don't have time to read this right now. Recording this episode. When we gather the list of films most frequently selected from the closet, there was a palpable sigh of relief. Here was a selection we could all get behind at once. Iconic and adventurous, not obvious in any way, featuring many of the finest films ever made, handpicked by nearly 200 of the most creative and thoughtful people we know. These movies are accompanied by all of the special features. Okay, so I guess they're going by the Criterion Closet videos, but I don't know. I don't think this was a good idea for a box set. I just don't see the purpose of it. I would be very curious to see how well it sells. Not in a backhanded way. I more so genuine curiosity, because I don't really know who the set is for the price tag they're charging for this. And I understand you're getting 40 films for $640, but at the same time, the core audience of this has seen the majority of these films. It's like I don't really get it. But I went off topic there. I was talking about Forbidden Games, 1952, directed by Rene Clement, starring primarily this child actor, Lawrence Beatty, or I'm sorry, not Bridget Fossey, who plays his character Paulette. Takes place during World War II, And right off the bat, it really kind of hooks you emotionally and shows us how strong of an actor she was in this film. Like I said, it takes place during World War II. She's a young French girl. She's with her parents and her small dog. Her, I think it's like a not quite a puppy, but it's like a small dog. I think. Oh, I think they actually call it a puppy in the film. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. But either way, at the beginning of the film, she is very quickly left on her own, and she ends up joining this family on this farm, and it's them trying to one figure out kind of what to do with her in a very unsympathetic in the way where the film never divulges into melodrama and especially not sentimentality. Of all films I was thinking of, or at least comparison's sake, which is obviously ridiculous to say any kind of comparison's sake, because the films should stand on their own. I always think about the interview with Vincent Gallo when he talks about how it's very easy for people to kind of lump him in with other filmmakers because it's easier for them to sell the film, or it's very easier for them to kind of fit into these boxes. So consciously, I always kind of have that in mind. But I mean, I guess perhaps something probably closer to a Bresson film with some of maybe not quite the melancholy, but some of the, it's funny actually here. It says that it's listed as a comedy first, which is wild. And I don't know if the person who listed this actually saw the film, man, because it's a very not quite melancholic, but it is a consistently somber film. And reminded me when I was talking about Bresson, I was looking back at Mouchette, where you have this young girl as well. We have her as the primary focus of the film, who in that film she was in France, she was on her own, kind of living her life with these kind of tumultuous characters around her, but she is the primary kind of force behind the film is the character Mouchette by Nadine Nortier, which is a brilliant film, one of Bresson's very best. And Forbidden Games has this as well, where because we're following this character and we're seeing for the most part, I can't remember if we actually see any of the characters on their own without following her, but we have this young boy, Michel, played by Georges Pugely, who tries to be kind to her, he tries to be sweet to her. There's a really really touching moment early on, very somber, where I don't want to give too much of it away because it's not necessarily spoilers, but I think just sort of some of the tragedies that she goes through early on. Especially she's there's a bit that was reminding me a little bit of Satan Tango, with her walking around with her pet. It was very sad, and the young girl was a really great performance. I mean, I say that another comparison, which I'm contradicting myself again, but I was mentioning, is Desika in the way that one would be a comparison to something like The Children Are Watching Us, for the tone of the film, the fact that a young child is a primary lead in this, being left on their own, and I would say the ending especially feels very much like a Desika film, and the ending of this is brilliant. It's a total just wow of an ending. It's not showy. It's very matter of fact, and I think the less you know about. Well, I mean, I don't even want to kind of insinuate any sort of ideas that may be in the third act of the film where this goes to. Um, it feels like wow, here we are. We're at the end of the film now. You've been so engrossed at this point, um, and it's funny actually. I'm talking about that box set more than the film, and I'm dropping things, man. Good lord, my gosh, man! But it's a very emotional film because we're following through this young girl all on her own. Nobody's really on her side besides young Michelle, or Michael. I don't remember how they said his name. I do apologize. But besides her, the rest of the family is very not quite cruel to her, but they're very cold to her. There's a lot of symbolism and a lot of imagery of funerals and crosses. There's a whole subplot in the film of the two children who are going about and stealing crosses for their own personal cemetery. Ooh, cemetery, sorry, something my chest, reminding me of something along the lines of The Green Room by Francois Truffaut, the idea of this character making their own sort of in that film more so a place of worship rather than not entirely a church, but more so this kind of place to um, when I say celebrate death, I don't mean celebrate it in some morbid way. I mean more so celebrate it as something more than just the passing of someone. Which that film it does it in a far more optimistic way. But in this situation, it's sort of like optimistic in the sense of given the circumstances of just how this young girl could really kind of get by. We got a sip of this coffee here. This coffee's definitely getting warm, man. I tell you, I have to finish this up before the end of the episode for sure. Don't want any cold coffee around. But it's a wonderful film. It's a film that really kind of knocked me back. It's just one that I haven't heard much about, and I think even actually, I'm on the IMDb page right now. Even some of the trailer, I think, gives away a bit too much because it's not a very long film. It's 86 minutes. Apparently won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film in 1952. I had no idea about that. But it's a wonderful film. It's a brilliant film. Rene Clement is a filmmaker whose work I've always been familiar with, but who I have seen very little of. I don't even know if I've seen any of his work, truthfully. I think this might be, as I'm looking through here, the only of his work that I've seen. I may have seen, oh, well, of course, mentioning before, even though he's uncredited, but Beauty and the Beast from 1946, directed by him and Jean Cocteau. Although he's uncredited, so I think it's primarily Jean Cocteau's film, but that's a wonderful, wonderful film in its own right. Actually, funnily enough, from the I was mentioning before, is that from that Essential Art House set. Honestly, you could probably just write down that list of the films in that box set and probably go from there. It might be, I think you probably would have a stronger kind of outcome than with the other set. Not to say those films are lesser, but some of them I do question their inclusion in the set. But ultimately, it's irrelevant. But either way, Forbidden Game, if you can find it, import it, or it's pretty easily accessible on the internet. So, and I actually remember to silence my phone because I'm getting a notification. So, good thing that didn't go off there. Forbidden Games, I'm sorry, 1952. A wonderful film, a brilliant film, and one of the strongest films I've seen this year, for sure. And another film that I watched this past weekend, what absolutely bizarre that I don't even know what to really say about it. It's a film that is The House of Yes from 1997, and it was such a bizarre film to watch because this is directed by Mark Waters, written by Mark Waters and Wendy McLeod. Mark Waters, who would go on to direct primarily a lot of mainstream big films. I mean, he would direct most notably films like he would do Mean Girls and Freaky Friday, Spiderwick Chronicles, written by John Sayles, weirdly enough. I actually was curious enough. I haven't seen that film, but I was curious to watch that solely for the writing credit from John Sayles, who was one of the writers on this. I know they're based off a book or a series of books or something, but it's interesting enough. But this was his first film, and it's a bizarre film because for the first act to this film, it plays like a Whit Stillman film, and I was totally with it. Parker Posey in this film has a mental illness. She to some level of sincerity, believes that she is Jackie Kennedy. She lives in this bizarre mansion with her ma and her brother, played by Freddie Prinze Jr. The ma is played by, I just had the name up right here. I do apologize. I think it was Genevieve Bujold. And they're living together there. And then one of the brothers, Josh Hamilton, he's kind of distanced himself from the family, but he's like, man, I'm coming home, even though she's feeling kind of uneasy about it. He's got his girlfriend there, and the first act is really strong dialogue. The characters are really bouncing off each other. It's got that wittiness of a Whit Stillman film, where the characters are witty, but they're not obnoxious, which is oftentimes can be a little much when every character in a film has a quick remark or has something wacky or quirky to say. There's a couple of films that immediately come to mind that I really don't like because of that reason that I won't name, but I think of those films and I'm just like, my gosh, these characters are just too much. I mean, every character is the quirky one, and this isn't that. But then it takes a bizarre turn, maybe even less than halfway through, in that you have a strong, bizarre plot shift. We were going, I don't know what we're doing with this. And then the tonal shift becomes something else entirely, where the first act could have played off like even like almost like a Noah Baumbach, early Noah Baumbach film, something closer to Kicking and Screaming or Mr. Jealousy, so like just a really good film like that. But then it tries to do this other thing that doesn't really work. That tries to have this level of sinisterness and even bizarrely enough violence. That's just like, what are we doing, man? It's absolutely bizarre by trying to connect in the assassination of JFK as a plot point in this film. And I'm sitting there in my seat, man, and I was having whiplash. I said, "What are we doing with this film? This feels like we've had different writers on this. In that you had two writers and they had two ideas for the film, and they put both their scripts together, and this was the end result." Because it's a film that I think is worth. I say it's worth watching because I'm looking on Letterboxd and not a lot of acquaintances of mine, actually no acquaintances of mine have this logged, and I don't even know how many. I mean, ultimately, I don't think seeing who logs a film on Letterboxd is an indication of how many people have seen it, but because so many people are on there now, I think at some level it is kind of interesting to gauge how many people have actually um, seen this, and I never know how to do it. So it has 15,000 watches, which is interesting, but it's not very good, but it's not terrible. It's like this bizarre tonal like line that, like I said, it just feels like different films, man, where I really can't recommend it, but I also kind of would at the same time, just because I think that, I mean, all the performances on this are very good. Parker Posey, Josh Hamilton, and Freddie Prinze Jr., Tori Spelling gets a more prominent role in the second half of the film, and Genevieve Bujold. They're all good in their own right, and they're all really good at bouncing off each other, but my gosh, man, I'm watching this film, and the thing nearly gave me whiplash, so I think if you, as a pure curiosity piece, I think it's worth watching in that regard. I know that last month or sometime recently there was some films of Parker Posey streaming on the Criterion channel. There was this and Party Girl and Clock Watchers, which is actually finally coming to Blu-ray. Interestingly enough, Clock Watchers is, I think, a pretty underappreciated film with Toni Collette, Parker Posey, Lisa Kudrow, and Albana Ubach. It's a very interesting comedy drama that seems pretty underseen, but would recommend nonetheless. Yeah, bizarre film, man, but I guess in a weird way, a recommendation to a certain extent. I'm not really sure, but I wanted to mention it because I haven't seen many films like it where I was taken so through a loop where I was just going, "What? Like, is this a good decision for the script? I have no idea, but it's memorable nonetheless. I got to give it that, man. I'm still thinking about it. So above all else, whatever opinion I just dropped the thing again. Good lord, brother. Ah, I really got to clean up this desk, man. This is getting ridiculous. I wish you guys could see this right now. There's no space to even put a cup. There's so much stuff here. It's just papers and writings and good lord, I got like a random spring hanging out here like from a pen. What the hell's all that about, man? Thinking of Travis Bickle, man. I got to post it. One of these days, I'm gonna get organized. Good lord, man. I got to throw this out. The hell even is this? Oh man, bills. Jeez Louise, man. I guess it'll all come together when it comes together, man. Wow, gotta put that away, put that book away. Anyways, man, I'm gonna wrap up this episode. Thank you all for listening yet again. Enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, your night, whenever you're listening to this. Be consistent with your goals, with your passions, with life's goals, life's passions. Do not fall by the wayside, and do not be a passenger in your own life, man. Ooh, I'm choking on this coffee. So I'm gonna hit the stop button right here. I'm gonna finish this coffee and get this episode out to you guys. So if you're listening to this, then great, it worked out. And if you're not listening to this, then I've been talking into a microphone to nobody for the past 28 minutes or so, 29 minutes now. Okay, thank you so much.